This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
B'Rishus, Meridas V'Shlita, Rabbonim, Talmidei Chachomim, V'chol HaKol HaKodesh Hazeh. When Bilam came to give a klola to Klal Yisrael, we know the Rabbeinu Shel Olam put different words in his mouth, and at that moment, instead of a klola, came brachas. The famous bracha, the Posek tells us, Ma toivu alei Yaakov, Mishkan Oisecha Yisrael. Rashi over there brings two pshatim. In the second pshat, Rashi brings Mishkan Oisecha. Rashi says it's referring to two things: the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Kuf Hey Amud Beis, and the Gemara tells us that from the brachas that Bilam gave Klal Yisrael, we can see the Havamina. We can see what was the klola that he was looking to give. What was he trying to tell Klal Yisrael? So the Gemara over there, Kuf Hey Amud Beis in Sanhedrin, many things. Of the first two is as follows. Number one, you shouldn't have but to Knesiyos, but to Midrashos. That's what he wanted to say. Says the Gemara, instead we have Matoivu Alecha Yaakov. Number two, says the Gemara, that he wanted to say that the Shechina should not be in Klal Yisrael, and instead he said Mishkan Oisecha Yisrael. The Maral in Goaria explains as follows: why dafka this klala? Why dafka did Bilam want to tell Klal Yisrael not to have a Beis HaMedrash and a Beis HaKnesses? Says the Maral in the following words: V'zel Shoinai, Kidei lahafrid chas v'sholom hashchina mi Yisrael. The Shechina is shoyu in a Beis HaMedrash and a Beis HaKnesses. Bilam wanted to stop that. Bilam wanted that there shouldn't be Shechina. There shouldn't be a Beis HaMedrash and a Beis HaKnesses. Like the Gemara tells us in Brachas Davov, Kolzman, there's a Beis HaMedrash, there's a Beis HaKnesses in Klal Yisrael, the Shechina is with us. Continues the Gemara in Sanhedrin. If you look at all of the klolas that Bilam wanted to give Klal Yisrael, all of them, along the lines in history, came true. They were all Mekayim, with the exception of one, says the Gemara. And that is the Bata Knesiyos and the Bata Midrashos. These two were never, this was never Mekayim. This klala that Bilam wanted to give Klal Yisrael was never Mekayim. The reason? So I heard B'Shem Rav Yonason David Shlita, the Rosh Yeshiva Pachad Yitzchak, that the reason is because the Beis Medrash and the Beis Knesses connects Klal Yisrael to the Rabbeinu Shel Olam. We need that connection. Klal Yisrael need this connection of a Beis Medrash and of a Beis Knesses to give us a shaychus to the Rabbeinu Shel Olam. But it comes at a price. And the price is very, very high. And it depends how we treat it. There's a Medrash at the beginning of Eicha, in the Psicha Ois Tes, where the Medrash tells us that when the army of Nebuchadnezzar came into the Beis HaMikdash, so there were soldiers also of Amnon and Moav that also came in at the same time. And they joined them. And the army of Nebuchadnezzar were after the money, the Kesef, the Zov, says the Medrash. They were looking for the riches, they were looking for the money. But the soldiers of Amnon and Moav came for one kavanah, they came for one reason. And that was to mock the Torah. They walked into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and they took the Kruvim. Says the Medrash, they put it into a cage, and they paraded around Yerushalayim. And they told everybody, look what the Yidden have in their Kodesh HaKadoshim. They have images. They're no better than anybody else. Das steht in Medrash. You read the Medrash, it's a scary Medrash. And you think to yourself, how could this have happened? In the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the holiest place in the ganze Welt, this is the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and this took place. What's the pshat? But what's sad, and maybe what should be sad, is if we would realize that maybe we do the same thing. Maybe we're also guilty of that. Maybe we're also doing the similar thing that the Medrash tells us went on Bizmaneihem. We walk into a Beis Medrash, we walk into a Beis HaKnesses, and we just roll in. You know, somebody told me recently they had to go to Buckingham Palace in order to go and get some kind of award. Do you know what it is to go in there? You need appointments, you need special tags, you need security. It's a whole mahalach. You don't just walk into these places. Imagine you showed up at the White House, right? And you walk in. What are you doing over here? You can't just walk in. You need an appointment, you need security, it's a whole mahalach. And here, the Havdil Elef Havdolis, we have a Mikdash Ma'at, and we just roll in, because we don't even realize what we're dealing with. And that's what's scary. Because if we don't realize what we're dealing with, then it could be that we have the same problem that the Medrash told us over there, that they walked into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and they did whatever they felt they could do. There's a Zohar Kodesh. The Zohar Kodesh in Parshas Truma tells us that one of the reasons that the Shechina is still here, still among us in Golus, but we have no Beis HaMikdash, says the Zohar Kodesh, V'zel Shoynoi, Da'ovdi kalona b'shchinta. We're kal with the Shechina. It's easy. We're just kal with it. We just go along with the Shechina. In 1648, 1649, Ki Yodua, the Gzeiros of Tach V'Tat, that we know there were thousands of Yidden that were killed, that went through terrible situations, thousands of Yidden. And the Tosfos Yontov over there decided to made a Shelis Chaloim. What's the pshat? Why are Yidden going through such a terrible situation? And the Tosfos Yontov was answered in the Shelis Chaloim, a zilzul to the Beis HaKnesses. There's a zilzul going on, and that can cause terrible things. It was commented to me by a very Rosh Yeshiva Beis Dovid here in Yerushalayim, HaKodesh, who said something very, very scary, which I'm only repeating what he told me. And he said, maybe, that this is why we needed 4 Kedoshim Korbanos in Har Nof to be massacred and butchered inside the Beis HaMedrash B'Shah Shmoina Esra, because to teach us what a Beis HaMedrash is. These are examples of tzaddikim, anshe chesed. But we have to realize what the koyach of a Beis HaMedrash is, what a Beis HaKnesses is. In the Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, in Perek Nun Aleph, he writes that when the Beis HaMikdash will come up, when the Beis HaMikdash will rise, says the Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, the gates that were swallowed up will rise from the earth, and they'll re-establish themselves in exactly the same place as they were originally. And you can ask, how's it shaykh? The answer is found in a Posek in Eicha, Perek Dalet Posek Aleph, Tishtapechna Avnei Kodesh B'Rosh Kol Chutzos. These sacred Kodesh stones are scattered all over the streets and every corner. Chazal tell us that when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, the stones were scattered all over the world. And in every spot that a stone landed, a Beis HaKnesses, a Beis HaMedrash will be placed, will be planted in that place. So when the Beis HaMikdash, Be'ezah Hashem, will be built, when the Bayis Shlishi will be here, the stones Chazal are referring to are the stones from every place and every Beis HaMedrash and every Beis HaKnesses around the world are going to be put together into one place. And the question is, what are those stones going to look like? What do we do in the Beis HaMedrash and the Beis HaKnesses and anywhere around it? What are we doing there that these stones are going to look like something? Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz writes in Yaris Tvash Drosh Hey that if a person is mezalzel in a shul, in a Beis HaMedrash, in a Beis HaKnesses, it stops the tefillahs from going up. And it sometimes we don't even realize. Rabbi Shimshon Pinkus Zatzal said over a Moedik HaMaisa that he was in America, it was Yomim Noroyim, and it was Yom Kippur, and he was in a shul, in a certain shul over there, somewhere in America, and they gave out by Vaynachnu Koyrim, so sometimes they give out papers. So they gave over there out Maisa Shahoy, they gave out the New York Times. And they gave everybody one of these pieces of paper to go Vaynachnu Koyrim. And if Shimshon Pinkus said he was there b'shas Maisa and he washed it with his own eyes. After Vaynachnu Koyrim, everybody jumps up. There was one person on the floor, he was still reading. He was still going. And Rabbi Shimshon said, you must be pasha drunk. How can you do such a thing? It's Yom Kippur. And you're reading the newspaper. What's going on? Do we realize when we're in a Beis HaMedrash and we're in a Beis HaKnesses, we have a mokim HaShechina. We have a mokim that the Shechina is here. We have an opportunity. And yet, what are we doing? We're pasha drunk because we don't realize it. There's a moyudik Sfas Emes. In Tov Reish Mem Beis and Chanukah, I think, believe Balanias Daiti, this Sfas Emes is the Yesod of this evening. The Sfas Emes writes by Chanukah, Tov Reish Mem Beis, he says that we have 3 mitzvahs that are Pesumei Nisa. We have the mitzvah of Dalet Koises, we've got the mitzvah of Mikra Megillah and the mitzvah of Ner Hanukkah. And if you look at all of those three, the first two are different than the last one. The first two are Daled Koises and Megillah, are ones that are done sort of B'tzina, good. The Megillah is done B'Rabbim, maybe in Shul, but it's done in a Shul. Daled Koises is done in our own house, good, we'll have guests, but it's not done like Hanukkah. Hanukkah is the only time that we'll take the menorah and we'll go into the street, we'll go into the Rishus HaRabim. In fact, this Vasemes, why? Why is it that all of these three, which are Pesumei Nisa, the first two are done in a sort of private setting, and the last one is done in the street? It says this Vasemes a moedige Gazach. So this Vasemes, that's exactly what the Yevonim tried to do. The Yevonim came in from the street, and they brought the street with them into the Beis HaMikdash. They took the street and they brought it into the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, on Chanukah, what do? Faket. We take the Kedusha, the Torah, our Tefillahs, we take everything, and we go out to Mekadosh the street. And I'm adding this onto this Vasemes myself. How sad can it be if we do the same mistake that they did in Yevonim, and we take the street and we bring it back into the Beis HaMedrash? How sad that can be, because that's what the Yevonim wanted to do, and that's what Hanukkah represents. The Kav Yosham Perichov Gimel writes that a Beis HaKnesses has a sgula for Matar Machshovois Leiv Odom. He brings over there Mordecai Medrash. The Medrash compares the Beis HaKnesses to a Nachal. Just like a Nachal has the Koyach to Matar someone that's Tomei, so too a Beis HaKnesses has the Koyach to Matar somebody or something that's Tomei. But we have to learn how to use it. Reb Shabsai Yudalevich Zatzal said over a Mordecai Maisa, and he said it was a true Maisa. There was an 8-year-old boy who was in an orphanage in Peru. And it's a very, very sad situation. This boy, Nebuch, he didn't see his father and his mother since he was born. And he's placed in this orphanage. And all he had was a few worn-out, old-looking toys. Nothing really geschmack. And the food wasn't really called food. And the rooms looked more like a hospital room. Terrible. And he looked out every day into the street and he saw that families with children are walking past. And he said, wow, halavai I would have such a thing. Halavai I could also have a family and a mishpacha to look after each other. And he said, maybe one day I'll be zoicha. And he promised himself, that's it, I'm doing something about it. The next day, the postal man, the mailman, takes the envelope from the post. And he sees written on this envelope something he never saw in his life. He sees one word. Instead of a name and address, which is normally put on an envelope, he puts one word, God. That's it. That's all he sees. And he wonders, what am I meant to do with this? There's no name, there's no address, there's no return address. What am I meant to do with this envelope? Now, there was an old custom in Peru. They say it was, I don't know, maybe it was a traditional thing. You don't open somebody's mail. You don't do that. So what's he meant to do with it? He can't open it up to see where it came from. So he passes it to his supervisor. And the supervisor passes it to his manager. And it goes down the line and it goes from government office to government office to government office. Nobody knows what to do. The media are busy discussing it, what's going to be. And eventually it lands on the desk of the Prime Minister of Peru himself. There's nobody higher than him. And he figures, well, there's nobody higher than me, I've got to open it. He goes into the inner chamber and he locks the door. He takes his very posh envelope opener and he opens slowly the envelope and he takes out the letter. And the letter reads as follows: Dear God, I know you know my name, so I'm not going to tell you my name. I'm 8 years old and I live in an orphanage. I miss my mother and my father. Maybe you'll find me a family. Please. There's nobody else that can. And the Prime Minister wiped away his tears, an emotional man. He met with his advisors. He brought his wife in to discuss it. And he said, that's it. The search party went out to find this boy. And they found him and he adopted him. Reb Shabsai concluded this maisa and he said, we call to the Rebbeinu Shalom be'emes, then it works. But there's another condition. Not only do we have to call be'emes, but we have to create a mokoim that is the Shechina going to rest over here. Everybody we know needs something. The Nefesh HaChaim writes it in Shadalad, that there will not be a moment in the world of creation where a person doesn't daven for something, doesn't need something. And if there will be, the world will go back to Tohu Vavohu. Every single person needs something. Whether it's Shidduch, whether it's Nachas, children, Parnasa, Shalom Bayis, everything. Everyone needs something. We have to daven. And the way to daven is not only just to call out, but to have a place with which the tefillahs can reach the Kisei HaKavod. The Chofetz Chaim was a young child, and he visited a small town, and he stayed in the Rov of the town's house, and it was the first day of Slichas, and he walked together with the Rov. And they walked past the house, and they heard some tremendous crying. And they asked, what's going on? They went inside, and they found that this was a man that was just released from the Tsar's army after 35 years of service. He never had a chinuch, he never knew anything, and he had just found out that it's Rosh Hashanah in only a few more weeks, and he doesn't know how to daven. He doesn't know the Aleph base, and he was crying. They went away. The Chofetz Chaim years later visited the same village, and he asked, please take me to this place. Take me to the place and show me where I met this person. They came to the place, the house was gone. The house was no longer in existence. But what was there was a yeshiva. It was a Beis Medrash. People learning. And the Chofetz Chaim smiled, and he said, Yiddish tears never go to waste. Never goes to waste. Rabbi Say, we have over here a mokoim of tefillah, of Torah, not only the Beis Medrash, but an entire area of Torah and Tefillah in this Mokoim. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Lazeh. We have a chiyuv on ourselves to make this a Mokoim of Shechina. We have a chiyuv to make this a Mokoim that our Tefillahs can go up to Shamayim and Kisei HaKavod. And Be'ez Hashem, if we're Zoicha to Taka, come to this Madrega, the Rabbeinu Shalom will answer all our Tefillahs the Tova.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.